Let's talk about pseudocode. What is pseudocode? Now, we discussed it briefly back in CS 100, didn't we? It was a way of being able to convert our natural language and how we talk about a sequence or solving a problem or steps or a recipe and convert that into something a little bit more logical, almost to the level of being able to program from that. So therefore, let's say that it's converting our language into logic. All right. Let's use the flowchart that we just created, and let's convert this flowchart into some sort of logical language. It's still not code yet, but it's a process of getting us there. So therefore, we're going to convert it into something the computer can understand. That's our ultimate goal, but pseudocode is a step before that. It's that blue arrow in between. We're getting ready to get to actual programming at this point. And before we start this process, let me tell you that with these visualization tools, you can use the flowchart like I have here, and or you can use pseudocode. You don't have to use both. It's one of those where it depends upon your workflow. For me, the visual point of view and using the flowchart is how I like to sit down and map out any code that I'm working on. I start with a flowchart. Then I take that flowchart and I convert that into software. For some folks, writing pseudocode helps them to be able to put together what the logic is going to look like. And if that works for you, fantastic. Let's walk through that process. Now, this is not a definitive, you write pseudocode exactly like this process. This is more of an introduction. So you want to describe the steps and conditions, notice the word conditions, in a descriptive language. All right. So we took that flowchart, and if we wrote that out in a paragraph format, it would have some sort of structure to it. Let me give you another example. To think about conditions and how we use logical language, all right? This is the beach. It's about a mile from my home. This is Lake Michigan, actually. And this is our annual kite festival that we have. You can see all the kites in the air. It's a pretty popular event here on our beach. So let's say I'll go to the kite festival if the weather is good and I'm not working. I want you to notice the construction of how I laid that together. Another way of saying this phrasing is to say, if the weather is good and I'm not working, then I'll go to the kite festival. So therefore, we can lay it out just like this, can't we? We can say if, and there's a parentheses there. You see the parentheses? It's saying everything within the parentheses are the conditions. Which conditions are those? In my case, it's the weather is good and I'm not working. If the weather is good and I'm not working, both of those are true. Therefore, the if becomes true. Then I'll go to the festival. See how that works? It's converting our natural language into something we're already kind of saying, but putting it into a little bit more of a structured, logical type of language. So let's do a descriptive language. Ready? We took our flowchart and we wanted to convert that into words more. We would say something like, if the join button is clicked, then load the join page. Notice that I also have load the join page in there. I am intermixing back end with front end on this particular example. If the join page is displayed, then what do you do? So yes, the join page is now displayed. So then I fill in my name and I fill in my email address. Notice the structure. The then doesn't have to just be one thing. It could be in several steps. If the form submit button is clicked, and let's say, yep, I just filled in my name and I filled in my address and now I click that form submit button, then I'll do these steps. The form gets submitted to the server, the user gets registered, and an activation email gets sent out. Now, these are back-end steps. These are server-side steps that occur. Clicking the form is what happens from the front end, and this is the result. This is the cause. This is the effect. If the activation email is received, so now I'm sitting here and I'm looking in my inbox. Where is it? And I receive it. What am I going to do? I'm going to open the email. In this case, I'm putting together language, but I'm describing what the user is doing. Okay? So I don't have logic this one per se, but I'm still including, because I'm in a descriptive type format, I want to see what the user's interaction is with our process. If the activation link is clicked, then I'll activate the server. Now, activation link is clicked. That's on the browser side, the client side. Activate the user is on the server side. If the user is activated, then display the welcome page. We want to convert that descriptive process we just went through, that descriptive language, into some sort of pseudocode format. All right, so pseudocode, let's do this. If the join button is clicked, then load the join page. All right, how can we express that into pseudocode? Well, here's our if then, and notice our parentheses. In this case, we only have one conditional. We have that join button, if it's clicked or it's not clicked. So here's the button. Think about what states does this button have to have. It's clicked or it's not clicked. It's true or it's false, right? So therefore, how might we represent it? Think about that if. How might you represent it? Let's just take join button. And why not? We've got it right here, join button. Let's push these two words together and say join button. See it? If join button, then do something. All right, so where's the is clicked? Notice I have that in my description, is clicked. Then I'll do something. In code and in pseudocode, what you want to do is take away the state. You want to say with an if, the if will only become true if the conditionals are all true. So therefore, we don't need to say join button is clicked. Instead, we can just say the join button here. Now, we actually might want to be a little bit more descriptive, but here, let's just keep it very simple. So if the join button is not clicked, then what is it? It has a state of what? False. If it's false, the if is false. The then is not going to happen, right? I mean, that makes sense. It's just like if I wanted to go to the beach. If the weather's not good, then I'm not going to go. It makes logical sense in our minds, okay? So for the then to load the page, and here's our web page, I want you to think in page loading. How are we going to represent that? How are we going to express displaying a page? Think of some worker. So in software, we talk about workers. This isn't a language that we necessarily use in PHP or JavaScript, but it's a popular word in a lot of software languages. So a worker class, you're sending it off. You're saying, hey, go do something. That's what the worker does, right? So think about it that way. You can also think of it as functionality, a function. Oh, okay. So it's just another word for that type of activity, for that type of process. And think about telling some worker, hey, I'm calling you and you're a display page worker, and I'm just going to tell you what page to load. Can you see how doing that says it's a little bit more generic? So then I'm able to load any page that I want. For example, I can load the join page. I can load the welcome page. I can load the home page just by calling this worker and then telling it, hey, I want that page. So what might that look like? Let's put it in as display page And then the page that we want, let's just say that has a join, some sort of mapping that then the system knows, okay, if I send you a join, you know that's the page that I want. All right? This is pseudocode. You see that? We don't have a state up here because we know it's in an if statement. So therefore, it's going to be true or false. And if it's true, then this will be true. If it's false, oh, sorry, we're not going to come down here and do the then. The display page is the mechanism. It's the worker. It's the function that says, if I call you and I send you this join, then you're going to go off and you're going to do exactly what you say. You're going to display that page. So this is pseudocode. Notice how it looks very similar to software. Huh, okay. It's not code, but it's pretty close. So we've taken our descriptive language, which is over here, and we broke that out into something that's more logical, a little bit more like code. Now, there's a lot more you can do with pseudocode. I'm just giving you the if-then because it's very simple right now to think in just if this, do that. Okay? So what are the takeaways? Pseudocode helps you to transition from the visual mapping to a textual, put one more word in there, logical format. It's written in a generic non-state specific format, right? We saw that because the button didn't say I'm clicked, it just said join button. And it's the building block of code. From that pseudocode, you can start to write your code.